Hello and welcome to another video here on DAX Wednesdays. In today's video, we're going to have a look at a DAX function called total year to date or TOTALYTD. This DAX function belongs to the time intelligence family of DAX functions. Let's switch to Power BI for the demonstration. Over here, we have a data set ready in which we have a table called orders with 5 columns in it. First column segment, then we have a column called sales, which is nothing but quantity multiplied by price per unit, which make second and third column over here. And finally, we have a column called order date. If you're following along, just make sure that this column order date has a format set to this one, March 2001, which is month name followed by year. Now we'll move to the report view, create a table visualization. Now for this visualization, we're going to select columns. First of all, we're going to select order date and sales. Now, although Power BI has accepted the order date as columns, but this is not in the manner in which we want to see the order date. In order to change that, we can click over here on order date on this downward arrow and change the setting from date hierarchy to order date. As you can see, it has changed the format of the order date to month, year, exactly the way we wanted it to be. Now, as you can see in our table visualization, we have the sales amount. We have the corresponding sales amount for that month. For instance, for January 2012, we have 98,000 of sales. Then February 2012, 103,000 of sales, and so on. Now, what does total year to date lets you do? I have prepared a slide like this to explain what exactly we can achieve with total year to date. So total year to date, or as some might know as running total, lets you acquire the total of sales in our example that were made for that year. For instance, if we have made sales of 15 in the first month, month 2 12, and month 3 18. So the total year to date for month 3 will be 15 plus 12 plus 18, which is 45. It is pretty straightforward. Let's switch back to Power BI for our demonstration. Over here, we're going to add a new measure by clicking on this option. We want to name this measure as total to date. It's equal to, once again, total year to date, this time DAX function. Now, the total year to date DAX function takes in 4 arguments, among which 2 are optional. First of all, we want to have a look at the first 2. The first argument is the expression. In our case, we need the sum of the sales. So we'll type in sum. Now, sum itself is asking us for a column name. So we'll choose the sales column in the orders table. Close the bracket like this. Put in a comma. Now we have moved on to the second argument of total year to date, in which it's asking us the dates. We need to provide it the dates that are in question in our data set. So we need to choose the dates column in our data set like this. Now, if I were to close this bracket and say OK, Power BI hasn't prompted us with any error, which means this DAX function is perfectly fine. In order to add this DAX measure into our table visualization, I will click on the box over here, and you can see the third column has been added to our visualization, where we can check the total year to date or the running total for that particular month. So for instance, if we had to have a look at March 2012, it has provided us 338,000, which is nothing but 98,000 plus 103,000 plus 135,000, where we get 338,000. Now we're going to have a look at the third and fourth optional argument in the DAX function. So we will once again click on our DAX function, put in a comma. So we have an option of providing a filter as a third argument. In data set, we have a column name called segment, and we have values in it such as consumer, corporate, home office. So let's put in a filter for consumer with the segment column from the orders table, and say you need to have fields where the segment is consumer. So we say is equal to consumer. Now let's see what happens if I were to say okay. All right, so the DAX function is once again working fine, but you will see the total year to date values have changed. Now it has only taken in the total of sales which fall under the consumer segment. So out of 98,898, 56,686 fall under the consumer segment. Then it has added what were the sales for the consumer segment in February, in March, etc. to eventually give us this total of 1,173,000 for that year. And you'll see for the next year, it has reset itself because the year has ended. So it has reset itself with the new values that correspond with January 2013. Now we're going to have a look at the fourth argument that we can use, which is year end date. Now let's say, for example, you don't want to use 31st December or January 1st as the year end date. You want to change it to, let's say, 30th of June. So for the year end date, what you can do over here is going to insert the date of 30th of June by tapping 36 like this and saying OK. So now you see the DAX function has been accepted. There are no errors in it, but you will see there's a slight change in the values that we see. The values that were supposed to be reset every January, it has been now reset to June end or beginning of July. Please note these are the sales for the consumer segment alone, where we have set the starting date as 30th of June or end of June, and then it has provided us to us the total year to date or the running total. As for the third and fourth argument, you're not obligated to use together. For instance, if I want, I can remove the third argument like this, and you see it still works, but the only difference is the filter has gone. So now it has written to me the sales of all segments, not only consumer. But with 36, which is nothing but 30th of June, you will see the value has been reset for every July. It has taken in this value, then the 208,000 from August 2012 has provided us this value. If you were to scroll down to July 2013, you will see the value has been reset. So the total year to date ends at every cycle. For instance, June 2013 is the end of that year from July 2012 to June 2013. So it has provided us this value. So this is also our demonstration on total year to date. It's a fairly easier DAX function that you can use. You can play around with filters, with the expressions that you can use in the first argument. You're not obligated to use sum every time. You can use, for instance, average or max. Play around with the end date or the filters to understand the capability of this DAX function. In the end, I'm going to show you this slide where I have ranked my favorite time intelligence functions. So among all the time intelligence functions that we have seen so far here on Powerdojo on DAX Wednesdays, I will rank total year to date on the second rank. It is one among the important time intelligence DAX functions that you can use, where you can get the running total, or let's say sales in our case. For me, date add remains a DAX function which is pretty flexible, which is much more flexible than its other DAX functions which belong to the time intelligence functions. So that's all for this video. Let me in the comments what you thought about this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video.